Hi, my name is Nolima Dikela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about the interpretation of the Senzo Meyiwa trial. Let's continue. I did a video already, but I didn't want to make it very long, so I'm doing a second one when it comes to that matter. Now, in every criminal trial, the record is everything. Not what we think was said, not what sounds right in hindsight, but what was actually said, word for word, meaning for meaning. And that is where this trial faces a serious problem because language is not neutral and translation is never mechanical. In a case involving customary law, extended family structures, and cultural specific relationship, meaning does not sit neatly inside English equivalents. It lives in context, in social practice, in how communities understand kinship, obligation, and belonging. When a witness speaks from that cultural framework, interpretation is not about simplification. It is about fidelity of it all. Flattening nouns does not clarify testimony. It changes it. That is why I'm saying something needs to be done about the interpretation of the Senzo Meyiwa case. The people that mostly come there and they are choose as Zulu speaking people, and they are from Emakaya. They're from the villages of KZN, meaning they speak proper isiZulu. So they need someone who's a language practitioner that speaks proper isiZulu language to be the one that is interpreting for them, not someone who speaks another Nguni home language. Because in this case, Mr. Jonasi speaks isiXhosa Nguni language. The people that are the accused there speaks isiZulu Nguni languages. And we have 4 Nguni languages: isiXhosa, isiZulu, isiNdebele, isiSwati. And they differ. We may hear each other when we speak, but meanings of certain things differ. There's a lot of things when we give names to them differ in meaning in all 4 languages. Sometimes you may never understand what a Zulu person, what they are saying when they go deep into their home language. Sometimes a Zulu person can't understand a Xhosa person when the Xhosa person speak isiXhosa deeply. Vice versa. So even for isiSwati and isiNdebele, there's a lot that a Xhosa person or a Zulu person may not understand correctly. That is why they will need the person that is speaking a certain Nguni language to interpret what are you saying, bring it perhaps into English so that I can hear you properly and understand the meaning of what the person is saying. I don't know if I'm making sense to anyone, because now the challenge that we are having there is that the interpreter is a Xhosa speaking person, and the interpreter might not be interpreting isiZulu precisely as it should be done. The Xhosa speaking person might not be intentional on interpreting isiZulu in a way that is supposed to have a certain meaning in isiZulu into the English language. There's a very high possibility that Mr. Jonasi sometimes does not correctly get it right. Sometimes does not get it correctly right. It does not mean he is intentional on not getting it correctly right, but because of the language. He is not an isiZulu language practitioner. He is an isiXhosa language practitioner. I don't know if I'm making sense. So challenges may arise when it comes to that. And we cannot run away from that. Whether we like it or not, challenges may arise. We can't run away from it. I don't know if anyone is understanding what I'm trying to say there. And now the other issue that I have a problem with, the other issue that I'm having a problem with is that in this trial, when that happens, the court record no longer reflects the witness evidence as it reflects the interpreter's reconstruction of it. And that is problematic, guys. That is very, very problematic. That is why I'm talking about it. And it's something that I think it needs to be addressed. I don't know why the defense, I've heard Umnisi speaking about it at some point, but I feel Uguti, it's something that needs to be addressed properly. It's something that needs to be addressed properly so that it's something that they deal with. Because that is not harmless, that is dangerous. Harmless is nothing. It is very dangerous for the entire record. It is very dangerous. In this trial, we have repeatedly seen answers evolving, extended family member relationship. They've been reduced to narrow Western concepts that do not carry the same meaning when it comes to the African way or isiZulu meaning, if I may put it that way. Relationships that are fluid, contextual, and socially recognized are translated as fixed, literally and legally convenient. What is lost is not detail. What is lost is truth. Even more concerning is when rephrasing does not merely simplify, but subtly aligns with the state's theory of the case. That is very wrong. When culturally layered explanations are reshaped into answers that fit a predetermined narrative, at that point, the integrity of the record is no longer intact. This is not a technical quibble. This goes to the heart of the criminal justice itself. Credibility assessments often hinge on exact wording. A single phrase can alter how a witness is perceived. A single rephrased can alter how, or else can, a single rephrased answer can transform uncertainty into certainty, ambiguity into admission. Judges do not assess credibility in the abstract. They assess it from the words before them. If those words are distorted, even unintentionally, the entire evaluation process is compromised. That is why I'm worried about it. That is why the interpreters are not neutral bystanders. They are officers of the court for reasons. Important reasons also. Their duty is not to assist the prosecution, not to streamline proceedings, not to make things clearer at the expense of accuracy. Their duty is strict neutrality and precise translation. Their duty is strict. Their duty is strictly and precise translation. I don't know if I'm making sense, guys. Both real bias and the appearance of bias matters. They have to interpret them as they are. Because justice does not only have to be done, it has to be seen to be done. When an interpreter appears to consistently smooth over answers in one direction, public confidence erodes. That is why we are having this discussion now. And once confidence in the process collapses, the verdict, whatever it may be, carries a permanent shadow. Courts are not passive observers in this process. They have a positive duty to intervene, which is Judge Rata. He did it once this past week. He needs to be doing it every day. When interpretation appears inaccurate, incomplete, or slanted, the court must stop, clarify, correct, and ensure the record reflects the witness' actual meaning, which is what Judge Erasmus did in the Jocelyn matter in Saldanha. That oversight is not interference. It is safeguard. This is what Judge Rata is supposed to be doing, but instead he does everything else than this. He enters the arena like nobody's business, but this he does not do. Without interpretive distortions, distortions become embedded in the transcripts. Unchallenged, unquestioned, and untimely, ultimately decisive. This risk is especially acute for the defense. Cultural specific explanation often do not translate cleanly into English. They require patience, precision, and sometimes repetition and proper understanding and proper interpretation. If those explanations are trimmed down or reshaped for convenience, the defense is stripped of its ability to fully present its case. That is procedural unfairness. And procedural unfairness does not require proof of bad faith. It only requires proof of prejudice. In a trial already burdened by contradictions, contested statements, and credibility disputes, the accuracy of interpretation is not optional, it is foundational. If interpretation distortions are left unaddressed, they do not merely affect testimony, they affect the outcome of the trial. And it's problematic. And when outcomes rest on compromised record, justice itself is put on trial. So that is where the challenge is when it comes to this Senzumeyiwa matter. It's problematic on that way. That is why I thought let's talk about it, because I'm worried about Jonas being a Xhosa-speaking gent and busy with isiZulu language. And he and I, as Xhosa-speaking people, we know there's a lot of things that are said by isiZulu-speaking people that sometimes us as Xhosa-speaking people, we do not understand, or they do not hold the same meaning as isiXhosa. Hence, I'm saying he might not be the right person to be the interpreter there, because the guys that are accused are from KwaNongoma and eMahlabathini, and they speak proper isiZulu language from the villages. So that means they need a real isiZulu speaking language practitioner, not a Xhosa speaking one. I'm not coming for Jonas in any way, and I am quite sure he's not doing anything that is compromising intentional. I want to believe that. I want to believe he's not doing it intentional, but it is a concern. I don't know what you think about this. Let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much for this channel and for you to follow this channel, subscribe. If you are not yet subscribed, kindly make sure you are. Kindly make sure you watch the videos up until the end and you are watching the ads that are coming through. When you are doing that, you'll be supporting this channel financially and in numbers. And I thank you so much for everything that you do for the channel. Enjoy your day. Have a good one. Bye-bye.